So I wanted to preface this video with a bit of a commentary, an update if you will, because I do feel that there's a bit of a need for a proper explanation as for what's going on with the channel, which I do of course want to bring back following with this video, and along with the way things have been going on for me in my personal life and of course the world at large. I feel is quite relevant as to why I've come to the point to why now, come back, and for that very important reason. And I'm about to date this video because this will be, of course, happening late July in the year of 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. There was, of course, a time in a few months earlier from now where, everybody hoped and thought that things would, of course, die down or at least be more in control to where things were more manageable. And, of course, the reason I had left earlier was to, one, acquire better technology to bring better content to the channel. But two, to make sure I didn't neglect things personally in my own life and, get on with my education so I could go on into my career. This all, of course, ties in to be relevant what's going on because everything's been, of course, here in America at least, put on hold because of what's been going on. And unfortunately, things didn't die down. And with myself being an upcoming teacher means that I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen with the school system in the coming months. And while I'm not disheartened, it certainly is a fact that I need to come to acknowledge. And, well, for those who would know me, would realize that, or would understand that I'm a person who needs to be creative. And so I took this as now being the right time to take on videos again. This is completely unscripted, so please bear with me. I am, of course, what's the day? Oh, gosh, 5 years out of practice. So please, if you have subscribed to the channel, thank you so much for staying subscribed because I have been paying attention. I have noticed that I haven't not only not lost subscribers, I actually gained a few. So it's a very honoring thing to me. I've always looked at my channel as something I'm doing for a hobby, not something that I want to make a career, though, Lord willing, if something shifts about that, then so be it. It's not something I'd certainly be opposed to. As I said, I'm an educator now, and that is my passion. But I also have passion and very importance about video games. I hope to write my thesis paper on that one day, but of course that's a tale for another time. So while this has been going on, just know that the stuff in the background is just games that I hope to play. No promises because, certainly can't tell things I would hope to play. Things I want to bring to you guys for the sake of, well, the same reason that I'm an educator, with a focus on literature and language, and of course their importance and the relevancy of it, which is very well steeped into video games, especially certain ones that I want to cover on the channel. This particular one that we'll be getting to, I feel is more so for the point of just, to bring smiles to people's faces. Nintendo was always found a way to bring a smile on my face, and then hopefully as I share my and log my experiences with such games, it might do the same thing for you guys, or who knows, maybe help you to decide whether or not it's something you want to do. Just all of this sort of stuff. Like I said, it's a bit of a rambling stuff, but I do feel I need to voice this out and explain myself because I want to be open. I want to, I do this because it's fun, because I want to be creative, and because I want to share that creation with you. Iron sharpens iron, and so too we can help each other. Even though, of course, like I said, with this pandemic, we're stuck inside. We can't see people as much as we want to. And, speaking of which, that's a good segue into what I was previously doing on the channel was my blind playthrough of Final Fantasy X, which, as I said before, I do intend to finish what I start. And to me, that is something that, along the lines with how things were going at the time, 5 years ago, something to think about, more of a build-up on live streaming on Twitch and stuff like that. I feel something that, akin to a more of a blind playthrough would be more beneficial to a live stream where you could interact with the chat and all their stuff instead of you guys waiting for me, shaking the screen and how could you miss that? All this other stuff. But better suited for that. However, of course, once again, this is why I felt I need to explain all this because of the pandemic. Just as a safety measure, our family decided that it was best to hunker down together, and it's been working great. It's totally fine. However, long story short, I really can't stream. I live in a mountainous region where I live, which means the internet is already not particularly great. That being said, it's rather amazing that we've been able to, these three, adult kids, just staying safe together with our parents, that the internet and the games that we play, most of them AAA, have been able to support what we have already. We've all had to direct connect, but, I'm definitely not going to have the power output to stream as of yet, until, of course, things change. I can, of course, record video and do stuff on YouTube. But to that end, like I said, something that was more aligned with a blind playthrough will be something more for streaming. So I'm going to be doing things that I'm more familiar with. So if you did sub to me for watching the Final Fantasy X playthrough, just realize that we're looking towards finishing that very much in the future when things improve. Because I know that's certainly something I wanted to deliver on. And I do genuinely enjoy the game and I want to see where it goes. That being said, I digress. Going forward into some video games, I actually wanted to try a PS4 game before the one we're going to do right now. But of course, things happened in my own life. I didn't realize that I would ever be so affected so deeply by situations such as this. It's funny enough, this idea of being isolated, social distancing, and being in your homes is like, well, and for the gamers, nothing really changed. But funny enough, you'd be surprised at how much that's actually not true. So for myself, I've been going through some things personally with, having just launched my career and then having it completely thrown on top of its head via this pandemic, which of course is to everyone's surprise and no one's fault. And so here we are. I primarily wanted to start recording videos specifically because I wanted to share my love of gaming and, with an eye on very specific games that I thought were very much worth everybody's time in experiencing, even not in just the literature, which I do consider as an art form of video games, another very important part of that. Again, I digress. But also to take in and share the literal idea of an adventure. You can ask my brother the same thing, we'll feel the same way, that video games, even as they are right now, not tapped to their fullest potential, is the greatest medium there is. So this idea of adventure and experience and immersion is very important to me and something I want to share. And so as with literature, I hope to not only entertain with my content, but also to educate and take part together with this community that we can build together and really be there for each other, even though we can't be with each other. So without further ado, please enjoy my playthrough on how I play The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Open your eyes. Open your eyes. Wake up, Link.
That is a Sheikah slate. Take it.
It will help guide you after your long slumber. Hold the Sheikah slate up to the pedestal. That will show you the way. Link, you are the light. Our light. That must shine upon Hyrule once again. Now go.
Yeah, it's always beautiful. I think you'll hear a lot of people say they're really astounded that Nintendo managed to pull this masterpiece off, which it truly is. Not to talk down Nintendo, but you gotta admit they are rather behind the times, shockingly enough, in terms of some technological aspects. But anyway, while we're just getting started here, I should probably mention a few things ahead of time. That being said, how I'm going to approach this playthrough. Now, full disclaimer, I am playing this playthrough assuming that you have played through this game once yourself. I'm only saying that as, well, also for a spoiler warning, but just to give you an idea about how this is going to go around. I know you'll see by the title, a little tongue-in-cheek, yet another playthrough. But in order to make mine a little bit different, like I said before in the preface, I wanted to show you how I played Breath of the Wild. That being said, I'm not really going to, aside from that opening moment, I'm not really going to pay too much attention to the base commentary, or the base story. What I am going to do is commentate over it. So once again, it's assuming that you've already gone through the basic steps at least. So once again, totally, full disclosure, if you feel that you want to experience more of the game yourself and are not sure what you may encounter during this playthrough, I don't want to spoil anything for you because, believe me, in a game about experiences, you want to experience this game to the fullest. But if you don't mind that, please continue, and happy to have you along and enjoy. So I'm going to be not speedrunning this, but I am going to utilize a few glitches that you may or may not be aware of, or otherwise may or may not know how it's done. And when we have these, our first of many Korok seeds. And to that point as well, as I said, this is going to be how I play Breath of the Wild. And, for instance, the Korok seeds. Great idea. Love them. Always enjoy finding them. We're definitely going to find our fair share in this playthrough. Not going to find all 100% of them. For those who are not sure of the exact number is, there are 900 Korok seeds in this entire game. Yeah, this game's huge, in case you hadn't known already. yes, Zella's going to talk for a second to get us going in the right direction. But, so, for this first part of the video, I want to do two major things. One is, of course, start the game proper. The Plateau, of course, serves as your de facto introduction to the whole game and its key mechanics. But after that, we're going to do our first major glitch, and I'll be explaining the reasons behind that a little bit later. I'm going to search these Guardians because, actually, good. That's what I'm looking for. I want ancient shafts. For reasons I'll disclose a little bit later. For those of you who are not aware, the effective light arrows of this game are made from ancient shafts. I believe the rarity level goes from common are ancient screws, uncommon are springs, slightly more rare are gears, and then of course the rarest are the ancient shafts. I'm going to be wanting 3. I don't have to have 3, but I would really like to, and of course it's totally random at what you could get from these Guardian drops. That being said, since this game is so huge, I may be either doing one of 3 things. I may be cutting some things out for just to save on travel time, speeding things up depending on what I can muster for editing software, trying to get a hold of finalization of that, or I will just play music over it, which is something I've done before in the past. So as we make our way across here, I just got the clothes because for modesty's sake. But you can make a little bit of rupees off of them. For a game so big as this, and as I, of course, said before, wanted to show you how I play Breath of the Wild and supporting reasons as to why, and just not waste any more time since there is going to be heavy traveling sections, of which I will address, as I said before. I'm going to be, I already have, rather, routed out what I'm going to be doing for constituting the base playthrough of the game. So I always come over here and I pick up the Hylian trousers because, well, they look better on Link and they actually fit him. And they provide better defense. So I always do that as I come along here, grab a few Guardian pieces, and then of course activate the Sheikah Slate. So like I said before, I'm assuming you played the base game so you understand the fundamentals of how to, or where to go generally, or have a basic idea. But one thing I'm going to show you right now is a little glitch that anybody can do. Well, technically speaking, you can all do the glitches that I'm about to show. And I hope that you will, maybe if you give my path a try, if you will, for how to play Breath of the Wild. It increases the replay value. But if you'll notice, you always start with 3 hearts and 1 ring of stamina. This is really annoying because you always have to stop and go, stop and go, stop and go. So a little trick that speedrunners like to use is called whistle sprinting. Looks like this. And how you do that is, it takes a lot of, well, how should I say this? It depends on a lot of your positioning on how you handle the controller. So if you have a pro controller, I'm not sure how this will look for you. I'm still using the standard, the switch dock that comes for the controller on both sides, the standard frame, if you will. It's sort of, they call it the claw method. You have to kind of use your index finger and your thumb and put those flat on the controller. Use the top of your index finger to push forward, which is you're going to be using it to propel yourself forward, just where you want to save stamina by moving forward. You're going to use the whistle button, which is the down D-pad, and then you're going to rapidly tap the B button. And if you do those 2 or 3 things together, you get whistle sprinting. This is going to be very helpful because, once again, travel time and recording is not particularly friendly. We're more akin to something like, I said before, more streamer friendly, which we'll come to that junction way later. So you unlock the Plateau Tower. There are a few things I do want to get set up for the glitch I'm talking about, and I'll unravel that more, because I do want to take this time to preface some things about how I'm going to go through the run, what I'm going to do, and what you could expect looking forward, and why you would want to bother watching yet another Breath of the Wild playthrough, namely mine. So there's only 2 major glitches I'm going to utilize, maybe 3 and a bit of an extra if we have time for it, or depending on how this is received. I would say 2, more than likely. The 2 major ones that you'll be noticing, I'm going to be using whistle sprinting rather liberally to save on time, if nothing else. But as we do Great Plateau here, we get through, of course, the introductory of the game. And I suppose what I'd like to do is pass the time with explaining my first experiences with Breath of the Wild. Of course, I was very excited for it. It's the reason I bought the Switch, you know, hoping that, of course, you know, some other games will be coming out. And unfortunately, as of yet, they haven't ported over some other games from the failed Wii U system as of yet. Really hoping that changes in the future, but that's a talk for another time. I'm going to be honest. I was really close to hating this game, and for a couple of reasons. One of which is the story, two of which are gameplay aspects. If you see most reviewers or analyses or video essays, what have you, on Breath of the Wild, they'll always bring this up. And I can certainly see where they were coming from, is that Breath of the Wild story is not one of the stronger ones within the Legend of Zelda universe, and I full-heartedly agree with that. Certainly seems like atypical for Nintendo, which is very funny given The Legend of Zelda is one of the series that Nintendo actually seems to put more emphasis on story. It actually cares about its characters. It actually sets up some more definitive rules. It would be an interesting argument. I would argue that it's enough of a hardcore system, a hard system, instead of a soft system, if you will, where it's more malleable, although they've definitely treated it as such as of late. So it was really jarring to see what they did and didn't do here in Breath of the Wild. Link's totally fine, but the advertisement, you know, of course, gave certain people, you know, certain ideas on what to expect going in, not just for the gameplay, but, you know, what we'll be talking about. And so you have great storylines, not least of which, oh gosh, that's a second, this is great, you know, get back in the saddle and you already get some Let's Play luck. But I digress. So you have great stories, not least of which like Ocarina of Time, and of course the subsequent Majora's Mask. And of course Wind Waker is still to this day my favorite Zelda overall. Skyward Swords was pretty lacking and is really dicey for lots of other reasons we'll talk about later if time permits. But and then you come up to Breath of the Wild, which its gameplay, I'm going to be honest with you, it's just straight up, so there's no misunderstanding. This is a phenomenal game. I'm not kidding when I'd say I would rather replay Breath of the Wild over again rather than play a lot of other games that have been coming out as of, you know, late. But again, from that part I must digress. So I was rather shocked when how they treated this game, how this story, mind you, I'm still talking about the story, how they treated the game's story with what was advertised and what was perceived. I felt could be perceived from those trailers. And obviously, you'll realize that they took the most active parts of the story, not really alluding to the fact that these were memories, and that a lot of these awesome characters who you wanted to probably get to know were in post-mortem. So yeah, I was really bummed out when I realized that the 4 champions were all dead. They were already gone. And this is really jarring. I'm not sure if this was more of an artistic choice because we are playing as Link, and even though Link isn't the up-and-coming hero that he typically was in a lot, if not all of the other Zelda games, a previous, a fallen hero already, a champion who has had to be recovered in the process, made him lose his memory, and rediscovering that, and maybe feeling the sadness that goes along with this, but I don't know, because he remembers, he gets to the point where the whole point is to get these memories back and remember these friends, and these are these friends, and to me, these are these friends of these cool people, these really awesome champions. I'm going to push this guy into the water because Guardians can't swim. And that's how you can quickly kill those guys. And I hadn't even met them yet. I wanted to get to know them, and even as Link and as the player, I'm learning about these people who I didn't even get to know yet, and they looked so awesome. I thought the dynamic would be really great. They obviously set up these 4 champions from very memorable races of the Legend of Zelda universe, of course, with Hylian and Link being at the forefront as the champion. I thought we could sort of like, strike back against, the darkness together. And that's absolutely not what it is. It ends up being this post-apocalyptic, at least in approach, because the last thing this actually is post-apocalyptic, post-mortem, event of having lost your friends. The only one who's around, of course, is Zelda, which, I know in Spirit Tracks they made her a spirit, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't the same way. Like, she wasn't deceased, and I do not think they would go there, and I wouldn't want them to either. But more to the point, I didn't want these awesome champions to be dead. I wanted to get to know them, and all we get are these one major cutscenes that sort of allude to what they're like. And yeah, I know they're present in sort of the main score memories for Link to have to you to go about as Link is rediscovered. But that really isn't enough, and that certainly isn't even close to the kind of character coverage we got in any of the other Zelda games. So I was really disappointed in that regard. And okay, so going on to the gameplay portion, I have to be honest. There's a difference between hand-holding and, well, not hand-holding. And this is something I feel a lot of reviewers got wrong. They say that it was really cool, and yes, an argument can be made that it was really cool how they sort of kind of had you help you figure out how to cook in this game, how to effectively synthesize your items and make them a lot better. But rather than just have you, figure it out yourself, or at least just give you a basic idea of how to do something, and if some people thought that was, very brilliant. I respectfully disagree. I would say it is totally fair and not hand-holding for the game to just straight up tell me how something is done, at least once, of course, just once, and that would be it, and that's totally fine. This one you had to figure out yourself. So what happened was I ended up going a good, I would say 6 hours without knowing how to cook yet. I was waiting for the tutorial or what could allow me to do that, and that didn't happen. So this game is rather punishing combat-wise in compared to the other Zelda games, and of course, being very different, a stark contrast from the other Zelda games, didn't know what was to expect, and so, I was having a hard time taking in everything. I have a story that was rather disappointing already from the offset, and I have a gameplay that's being so overly pushy, I was worried that Nintendo was going along with some rather poor video game trends, and that's something I didn't want them to do, especially with something that was being, praised as a phenomenal leap. And of course, that and with one other gameplay aspect I'll talk about later, because I want to talk about what I'm doing right now, is what made me almost hate this game. Eventually, I did figure out how to cook. I did realize that pretty much made the game doable from an otherwise hard offset, and so on and so forth. And then, along with using these glitches, is how I play Breath of the Wild. It just makes it more, I wouldn't say doable, because of course it is doable, even with knowing the principal things, but it just makes it more convenient, especially, and helps you to enjoy the more greater aspect of the video game, which they went in the direction of Breath of the Wild, which is exploration. Now, I came over here specifically to get those... I knew that was going to happen. Okay. To get the fire and ice arrows. Very much appreciative for the fire arrows, but what I really wanted are the ice arrows, and that's going to be for the glitch I'm going to do. And while I'm over here, I am occasionally going to stop to get the Koroks, because I definitely want to make space for my inventory, specifically for my weapons. As far as weapon progression or slot progression is concerned, I am not going to bother with shields, because there is only one shield you will ever need in this game, and that is it. Bows are going to be, of course, second priority, and then, of course, first priority is our weapons. Now, one consequence of doing the whistle sprinting that you'll notice just there is bokoblins immediately were alerted to some kind of presence, is that even though you don't hear the whistling happen, unless I don't remash the B button, or repress the B button, to resume my sprint, is that you do actually give off the whistle sound. So as a takeaway of gaining your stamina back while maintaining most of your movement, you do potentially risk alerting other foes. And of course, if you're not used to having a lower amount of stamina from coming up from a previous practice playthrough like myself, with all 3 rings of stamina, that can actually happen. You can just run out accidentally. Fun fact though, you do not want to whistle sprint continuously throughout this game, because if I could best describe it, sprinting, let's say, is like double your speed. Whistle sprinting is 1.75 times your speed, so it's actually beneficial for you to alternate between whistle sprinting and straight up sprinting, so you'll see me doing that. I just come over here for an amber, because why not? It's on the way. Going through the Guardians, I'm not going to get too many pieces, I don't believe. I think I come up and get this one. This is live commentary, by the way. So I'm actually doing pretty good as far as getting the Ancient Shafts are concerned. I already have 2, I only need 1 more, and there's going to be plenty of opportunities to pick up another one. So I'm actually fairly confident that we're going to be able to use what we need for them fairly soon. So unfortunately this one saw me. Most of my playthroughs, another one from coming out of the temple or the shrine is what sees me. I suppose I could take this time to talk about the shrines. They are a great idea, but they really lack power in the replay department. That being said, I think some of you will be surprised, if not most of you actually, when I say that I am only going to do, like, I don't remember the exact number. I don't do all of the shrines, not nearly all of them. But I think you'll be surprised when I tell you that I'm actually going to have full stats. And that is going to be the second glitch. Not the glitch I'm preparing for right now that we're going to do in this video, but we're going to do later. I'm going to acquire full stats because, to be honest, the shrines, some of them are good, no doubt. The battle ones are okay, especially if you're looking for equipment that can respawn during the blood moons. But other than that, most of them are a hassle to replay over. So I'm going to be skipping all of those. The good news is that when you activate a shrine, it activates as a teleport point. So there is a point to me activating a shrine, which I will be doing to get teleportation points, not only for the glitch I'm about to do in this game, in this video, but what for traveling, just period. The game is huge. This is, I'm pretty sure, the largest field that Nintendo has put together. So yeah, definitely want to be saving that time with that. So I don't really want to cut / speed up / play music over the game too much. It just saves on time. Which is a little unfortunate, I suppose, just like I'm doing right now. You can sort of see how other people just quickly get through certain shrines and other bothersome tasks. One thing I think that was more appealing to the shrines is that there is indeed more than one way to go about solving them. Not so much in terms of speedrun tactics like bomb impact jumping or the Bill method. But in terms of, using your head and realizing what you do have available to you. The only thing that's disabled are the champion abilities inside shrines. So it's really interesting to see how some people get around that because, you do have your bombs, your key items that we're collecting right now. But I'm only going to do a few that I've routed out, only because I do need to get some containers, I'll just say and call them. I'm going to want at least 4 containers, maybe 5, depending on how this turns out, because I'm going to turn those 4 and 5 containers into full stats, so I hope you'll stick around for how that will go up. Like I said, just moving along here, doing the whistle sprinting, getting to the shrines. Gosh, you really get spoiled when you get all of your stats back, but I guess that's of course to be expected, like any most not only Nintendo games, just like any game you start up, you always have to bear with it, and especially if you're watching somebody, bear with the person because you gotta get through all of the necessary introduction stuff. There are a few things that I'm going to pick up here for certain purposes later. If I'm being honest, I originally wasn't going to pick up the shirt or the pants going out of the Shrine of Resurrection, simply because they're not needed, and otherwise I didn't want to have to, it's just less button inputs, X navigation inside of my armor inventory. Nothing I wanted to deal with that. But at the same time, when you pick them up, you can sell them for a little bit of rupees, so there's always that. I don't really need both of these woodcutter's axes, but they're always nice to have around because it's just a good sturdy weapon. And you definitely want wood in this game. Pretty much to perpetuate the one shield that you will need in this game. So I'm going to pick up the spicy peppers and I'm going to actually cook some stuff. I'm going to cook this so it makes traveling through the upper parts of the mountains easier. Or rather, since I only have 3 hearts, just makes it doable. If you make the old man's favorite recipe, if you can kill a boar and get, the meat for that, you can get what I'm about to get earlier, but I just didn't need to, so we're routed it out accordingly. Just make a route over here, and that is the most diagonal I've ever had this log. Oh, no! Well, it's a good thing that was a phase out and not a land. That would have been very embarrassing. Okay, you know what? This isn't working for me. So I'm just gonna... Well, that answers that question, doesn't it? Okay, you know what it is? I remembered, because in order to not mess with my practice file, and I know I'm going to be the odd one out with this, I actually do not play, or aim rather, with the motion control. Yeah, I know, for these who play Splatoon and Splatoon 2 are going to just gasp at that. How can you do that? Well, I don't play those games, even though I want to in the future, but by the time I wanted to, Splatoon 2 had already finished. So, yeah, I'm kind of waiting on the next one. But anyway, so we make our way up here. These ledges can be rather finicky. More than once, I have unfortunately been pushed off at one of the... I'll just tell you when we get to it, one of these rock points. Something I hadn't done before until I saw how useful it was, not just for, again, for speedrunning, but for convenience sake, is using meals to increase your movement speed, and it does more than just increase Link's movement speed on its own, like from his motion on the ground. It actually increases your stamina regeneration, and any other movement that Link does. So if he's just carrying something, it improves his movement when he's carrying something too. It's just all around convenience. So I'm going to want these rush rooms. And at some point later, I'm actually going to stop to shoot down some other supplies, Swift Violets, in a little bit, and it just makes things much easier. Unfortunately, there is no whistle sprint option for this vertical hill, and I'm just going to have to wait it out. See, I don't want to have long pauses in my commentary, but I also don't want to, you know, feel like I'm just artificially like making things less awkward by talking about it. But at the same time, I'm also trying to make sure that I don't exhaust myself too much. I have a glass of water here that I don't, you know, accidentally give myself a headache while I'm done doing these videos. So this is the one I was talking about. This has a weird interaction on the corner, so I've learned to, instead of just walk around onto the lip of this ledging over here, just to go over to the ledging part itself. So what happened is that Link would stutter with the interaction of that edge over there. Ah, there's the phone. So it would always mess up in the interaction of that ledge there. And oh good, it's night, which means stalled skeletons come out. That's something I also don't agree with. I hope they get rid of in Breath of the Wild too. There's a lot of functionalities in the game that I know were meant to make it more dynamic. It just flat out wasn't, though. Night is... Well, how they treat night is one of them. Another one is the stall skeletons at night. Or more to the point, the fact that they can just spawn anywhere, and they are absolutely going to be a nuisance. They're so annoying. Especially if they spawn with bows that have quick shots. I don't know if any of you noticed, but the enemies' weapons, when they spawn with them, can have, you know, they already have technically on them some of the other traits, like durability up or attack up on them. And, well, let's just put it this way, you can definitely tell when an enemy has a bow with quick shot, because it doesn't take them long to acquire you as a target versus any other moment. Something I think was very useful was, I was a little shocked that they gave us bombs as a sort of key tool sort of thing. In most of the Zelda games, bombs are one of my favorite uses just because it's very satisfying and using is very fun to discover things with using the bombs, which you can do here. But something that is missing, though, is that the bombs as a weapon seems to have pretty much gone. Even though when you get the upgrade, they go from doing like 12 damage to Choo-Choos to 24. They do hardly anything to anything else of note. That's aside from a red bokoblin or something. Maybe a blue. But you generally don't use them. They especially don't use them on the overall bosses. So that was a little unfortunate. We lost our weaponized functions in the bombs. Made it more of a tool, but that totally makes sense. What I found interesting is that they gave us a spherical bomb and they gave us a cube bomb. And then, of course, you realize the ledges you have to deal with. That's certainly a good point for that. Magnesis is fun because there's a lot of metal objects you can use. You can use it to like whack enemies with, and the one time I actually used Magnesis to push that Guardian really is the only one I have planned for the initial playthrough. What I like to do with these stall enemies is, especially since they like to come after you, I open a bomb, just press A really quick or run to let it drop behind me, and then after a little bit time it, and then I just blow it up on them. because they can't bother you if they're crumbled. And that's the other thing about them. They waste your time. They're built to completely waste your time. This is why I made the heat meal, by the way, so I could comfortably make my way across here instead of having to worry about gathering health items. And instead of going directly to the shrine, I'm going to go to one specific hilltop to talk to the old man. Yeah, I guess I'll just call him the king. Not really king. Yeah, like I said, you've already gone through the basic part of the game, then you already understand who he is. So I don't talk to the King of Hyrule down there at first because I didn't really need to. I'm doing all the things I can to make it more convenient. Not only for you guys, but for myself as well. Hopefully I can get a hold of a good editing software that's beyond just like the basic free means while I get back into the pace of making videos. Because I definitely want to add some good effects. I think for someone like myself, even though I'm coming back from 5 years off, I do, other than that, have a good 2 to 2.5 years of experience. And if you see some of my old videos, yeah, I used the Dazzle and the editor function that came with it, the Pinnacle Studio 14. And I learned it, you know, completely by experience. It's very self-taught, really proud of that. But unfortunately, as I shifted to greater technologies, I sort of lacked any editing software for this new one. I just got the Elgato, which is what I'm capturing this with right now. And yeah, it costs a pretty penny, but it also allows me to finally capture videos in... Well, the Dazzle said it was recording in 480p, but it really doesn't look like it went higher than 360, even on a 480 setting on YouTube. Thankfully now, that's not the case. So I come here to talk to him, and as a nice side effect, you get the warm shirt anyway, without having to make the meal. And it is on the way to the shrine, so that's totally fine. Just get the rock item from here. I got a flint this time, which is actually fine. Last time in my practice file I got an ember. But I'm really glad that I can finally bring a full playthrough in actual 720p minimum. Or maximum, I believe. That's one of the settings I could do. The same thing goes with keys. Or rather, I would drop a bomb, but I'm aware of the ledge that I'm on. So if you see me, like, stumble for a second, that's because I'm switching from regular holding the controller to that claw method, so I can whistle sprint and just make it easier. So a lot of the enemies that harass you out there in the wild, or just at night, like when the keys come after you, and if you're in a not advantageous state like with that ledge there, you just sort of whistle sprint, and you keep enough momentum, even without the speed meal drinks, the speed meal food effect, you can generally outrun them and stay ahead of their aggro. So I like to do that instead. So Cryonesis was pretty interesting. Unfortunately, they don't utilize it enough, even in the DLC content. Oh, we'll talk about the DLC content. Ultimately, I'm not very approving of it, although we are going to go through it in this playthrough, so you can look forward to that. And of course, since even though I'm not going to be doing most of the base 120 shrines in the game, I am going to be going through those. And that's also what I thought was a helpful compromise. Even though I'm not going to be doing most of the base game shrines on my initial part of this playthrough. Post-game, of course, is another story, but we'll get to that then. I am going to be doing the shrines required for the DLC in order to get the DLC reward. Something I've tried to do when routing out this playthrough was how I can make it most beneficial for the exploration as well, which you can take that in and just fully enjoy the experience and show you what parts I enjoy about the experience and how you can take advantage of certain things. So I'm gonna get behind this Guardian because I don't want him to, well, pretty much do what he's doing right now. You can use the pillars as shields. It works in my practice. It didn't right now. It's not too much of a big deal. He only does like 1/4 of a heart damage, so we're already really good on the defense side of things, because enemies will always do 1/4 damage to you. How do I know this? Because of the setup they give you in the DLC. For those of you who haven't done the DLC but are gonna go along with watching me do it, Thank you. I think that's a bit of an honor that you trust me to show you that. But it becomes a real bit of a problem in that first part, and you'll see then. The fact that enemies will always do a quarter damage to you. No matter what your defense is at. So now we're finally done with requiring our key tools in our runes for the rest of the game. We're going to leave the plateau, and we're going to immediately do... Well, pretty much that's what they intended for you to go out, do what you will, you know, experience the game. And then, of course, they routed out the story the way they did so that it could be experienced from generally any point. I did go to Zoro's domain first, and coincidentally, I will also for this playthrough. Of course, after the playthrough, I'm pretty sure everybody just immediately went for Revali's Gale. And we'll talk about those points later. So what I like to do here is, instead of having to walk all the way back to the Temple of Time, and just easily teleport back to the Shrine of Resurrection and just go from there. So one thing I thought would be really interesting to present to people in these playthroughs is, or my playthrough, is sort of what I think you could... I don't know if it's developer intended, I wouldn't go that far, but I think it would be a nice thing, or a neat thing to do, is sort of, how do you, you know... how do you play Breath of the Wild? How do you make it your linear adventure? What do you go? Where do you go to first? What do you acquire first? What do you make first? Etc. Etc. It's sort of like, what would be interesting is sort of if you could watch someone else's, you know, playthrough of the game or interpretation of how they play through the game. It's sort of as a special challenge in, you know, doing that pathway yourself as if it were scripted for you. It would be kind of interesting, I would think. So that's something I might want to try after this. Just personally, I wouldn't make a video series about it. Something I will admit that was rather unfortunate, and I hope they really do for Breath of the Wild 2, is that with everything spread out the way it is, and so many golden opportunities to collect, you know, chests and treasure and loot and all their stuff, and go through all these like chests and all these fights for these chests, because that's a really bad mechanic they did for this one. I'm not going to fight any of the monster camps. They're not worth it. The treasure chests aren't worth it. And something that would mitigate this heavily is if they... something I'm a little surprised they didn't pick up on is that this game's setting is just ripe for randomizer. If you could randomize the loot, at least even in the chests, or just better yet, the locations and other stuff, this would be great replay potential. Just, you know, to go through the game, not knowing what you're going to get when, you know, and then just, it would be really impactful on how you approached it. Not everything would be randomized, but something else that would be really interesting is this: if they randomized or shuffled around the overworld boss locations, that'd be kind of interesting. You're strolling along, and what used to be a Hinox in these, you know, these piles of trees is now a Lionel. And, you know how Lionels are. They're really broken arrow shots. So I get my first container here. I always go for stamina. And like I said, for those who have, of course, played through the game, the one time you may or may not have found the Master Sword. The Master Sword is what this glitch is going to be about, and I'm going to proceed through here. I found it very annoying that in order to get the Master Sword, so that's a bit of a warning if it's per se a spot that you didn't want to spoil for yourself. In order to get the Master Sword, you have to find it in Korok Forest, and then you need a certain amount of hearts. The reason I say certain amount of hearts is because they didn't let you know how many hearts you needed. And at that point, I'm like, you know what? I gotta know what I'm dealing with so I can manage my upgrades between my stamina vessel, obviously my stamina vessels and the heart vessels. So I looked it up, it's like, okay, you need 13. So you pretty much need 10. And you always get a full stamina. You always get a full heart container from beating bosses as per usual. So yeah, you just need a pretty much what I would used to do before these methods that I'm using in these playthrough was I would have gotten the heart container. Because one of the things I definitely want to do is get a hold of the Master Sword for a couple of reasons. The Master Sword is rechargeable. It doesn't go away. And for better or worse, that has caused other, you know, situations, other ways for people to feel about the game. Fun fact. I spammed A or B to get down. And what I was supposed to do was let go to where Link would how do I describe the animation? He would sort of lean back, or he would sort of like lean forward, and then just like I was supposed to just flip over here.
Well done there.
So yeah, standard stock. It's not much to talk about in terms of the setup was going on here. What my anticipation was, of course, as everybody else, was going to that castle, going to Hyrule Castle immediately as soon as you're done here. Once again, you can go out, just experience the game as you will. And what it would take to get there. I'd obviously determined that since I was going to take it in this game, and I certainly didn't want to end it soon by going straight to Ganon or anything like that. But I wasn't even going to get close to the castle because I'm certain that with the trade-off of going straight to Hyrule Castle, it was going to be much harder than you could, anticipate. So I wasn't about to do that. So now we're going to do our first glitch. And as I was building up to there before that hilarious blunder, we are going to get the Master Sword early. In fact, we're not just going to get the Master Sword early, we're going to get it right now with only 3 hearts. You're probably asking yourself, well, how the heck can you do that? Well, there is a very good video tutorial, who I learned this from. The video will be in the description. But I am going to be going through the steps and how I approached it from here on in. So we can go, we're free now, we can go do the game as we please, and this is essentially where the playthrough now officially starts. I'm just going to pick these up because after we get the DLC item, it'll just be helpful to have stuff to use. You always come over here and there's always going to be horses. I'm going to aim for this horse, a solid colored horse. The spotted horses tend to be slower with their stats and thus, only have like 3 spurs. So only 3 boosts. The solid ones, however, have 4. So I'm going to freeze him, don't worry, he's totally fine. I just need to paralyze him, so I spam A while I'm next to him, and then I'm going to spam up L trigger to calm him down. And this is also a good thing that I got the stamina vessel, because, yeah, if I didn't, I don't think that would have worked. It definitely wouldn't have. But anyway, we have our horse, and as we speed up here, we see he has 4 spurs. And so what we're going to do here is, in order to do this glitch, I am going to do a few things in order. So you can, of course, follow me from here. I'm going to keep soothing him so that he doesn't act too wild and throw me off or anything. We'll talk about horses in a little bit, but let me finish what I was saying about this glitch. So I need to go to a few specific locations. Normally, in the tutorial video that I provided, he just speeds it up. I might very well do the same thing, so if he doesn't speed it up or I don't play videos over it, again, this will be a point where I will do just that. Before I do cut out, though, in whatever method, I am going to be heading for a specific, or this is how I do it rather than in the tutorial video. Usually he'll go straight to a specific stable. I am actually going to go up along the edge here and unlock a shrine, because I'm actually going to do that shrine for one of my spirit orbs so I can get a container. Okay, so what I did was, what I usually do is I like to go along the side there, because if you cut straight through like you did in the tutorial, you run the risk of running into a Guardian Stalker, and that's just really annoying. Besides, I want the Riverside Stable open for something else I'm going to do later. So you come over here to this shrine. Just to give you a relative idea where it is from the plateau. And I'm going to open it as a teleport point. I'm not going to go into it just yet. For later purposes, of course, I am going to get the Spirit Ore from there, but that's not what I need. Now, what I am going to need is 20 rupees, and I do not have any right now. So, thankfully, there's everybody's favorite merchant right over here. Go ahead to talk to Beetle. Go ahead and acquire the rupees. Just selling something. Let's see here. There we go. That's also why I get the ruby from, if you get the DLC pack, I probably should have mentioned, if you get the DLC for the game, there's a lot of special chests that are metallic blue in color, and they'll have special armors or just some special trinkets in them. That one had the ruby in it, and that's perfectly necessary for what I'm going to be doing here. So when I get to this stable, I'm going to intentionally register the horse because I'm going to need it a few times. I didn't want to combine this. Well, you're only going to need him for this trick, so unfortunately we're just going to have to simply name him 1. Sorry if any of you think that's cold-hearted, but it's not my fault. Think about it. They made horses so poorly for this game. And think about it this way. This glitch is actually making them useful because the horse isn't just for convenience, for time's sake. The horse is absolutely necessary for this glitch to work. But right now, we're actually setting up the glitch. You're probably thinking, well, what does this stable location and registering a horse have to do with getting the Master Sword? Well, it'll all come together in time, because we're actually going to do this 2 times, and it'll make sense why later. So, you want that stable because of its location to the points that we have to go to. In order for this glitch to work, we need a horse, we need the camera function for the runes, and we can't do that unless we go to Hateno Village. We can't go to Hateno Village until we go to Kakariko Village. But before we go to Kakariko Village, we want to set up the point to do the glitch in Korok Forest. So what I'm going to be doing here is making my way to Korok Forest, and instead of medging it going forward, I'll either do one of my 3 methods for the traveling purposes, but in the meantime, I'm supposed to get talk about this. Yeah, it's so poor how horses were treated, and it's so ironic because in other Zelda games, we always had Epona, and there was only so much room in like the Hyrule field to use her in. And you have this perfect location for it, but the horses are just so annoying to have to use. I mean, you see, I pretty much have determined that you need to keep, soothing these horses, otherwise they're just going to eventually, even while they've been registered and they've supposedly been tamed, like I believe that one showed a max stat on here, let me get this Korok seed while I'm at it, and so I did in the practice. While I have max bond on it, it's still wild. It's still wild. I have no idea why. It still shakes its head every few, like, spurs or something like that, and it's not cooperating. Not only that, the whistle, funny enough, doesn't reach them. This is something that I agree with Arlo. It's an idea of using a realistic function in a video game that really didn't need to be there just for lack of convenience sake. That is really odd. I've never seen that before. My spurs are... Is that permanently gone? That is so weird. That's a totally unintentional glitch. Anyway, I digress. The horses aren't really useful, so it's really funny that in this process... Oh no, okay, no, I came back. In this process, we're making them useful. Along with the whistling, but we're using it for whistle sprinting, not actually getting our horse's attention. So, again, this is not something that you would do in the tutorial of the video that I left in the description, but I am, for the sake of my playthrough, while I'm doing this glitch, I also take the time out of my way to find a few shrines and at least just get their location locked. Now, it's important to note that this only matters for this leg of the glitch, because after a certain point over here in Korok Forest, we are not going to be holding on to the progress that we make, if only until after we get the Master Sword will everything start to count again, because we're going to save at Korok Forest, and for reasons that I'll explain in the glitch. So I'm just going to go over here, use whistle sprinting to save on time, and unlock this stable, because, well, as I route it out, it's just also very convenient, because I need those spirit orbs to get a few containers, and I've already set up with doing this shrine eventually, so I'll just get it now. I had some complications going on with the Elgato, and it kind of stopped recording after a certain point, after this point specifically, so, well, you know, that's totally fine, because, well, to be frank, I almost messed up the glitch, so it kind of works out, but don't worry. We'll totally get it right now. So, yeah, nothing else changed. I just had to cut back to this point because the capture card, whatever, for a reason, froze. So, yeah, this the capture was going on for close to an hour, minus, of course, the cuts. That's probably how long the video is going to be by the end. Not overall. It's just at this point it was an hour, so yeah, it's good reason why some videos are kept short. The longer you go, the more complications could possibly arise, but that's totally fine. This is all totally worth it. So yeah, you didn't miss anything. I just the time changed because I had to reset everything, and I'm looking at it right now. It's totally fine. It's just I was so focused on my live commentary and getting the glitch right and doing the game proper that you know, you get distracted. You focus on a lot of things. I wasn't looking at the capture cards, well, capture screen. Plus, there could also be a risk of some lag, and I don't want to mess up my gameplay, so I don't focus on the capture screen. But, you know, setups, details, that sort of thing. So, as we come into Korok Forest here, if you remember Korok Forest, there's this misty maze you have to get through. And if you go to the wrong parts of the maze, it grabs you and takes you back to one of 2 points. The very beginning right here, or the midpoint at the end of the torches. So, we need to get the horse next to the or near the Master Sword, not next to it. That's how I almost messed up the glitch before the Elgato messed up. So, I'm actually going to go at high trotting speed just to make it easier. The first part, of course, is totally fine. You just follow these lit torches, and it leads you to the midpoint of the maze, I like to call it. Now, for those of you who remember that when you went through this game initially, if you test the waters, if you will, trying to find the right pathway, through the mists, that if the mist starts to crouch upon you, that you can quickly run back to where it was okay, and it will, you know, you'll keep your progress. The good news is that this actually is true for the horses, in that if you're too fast, even though you're going across the wrong path, it won't catch up to you. So here's the other part, and this, again, how they made horses so bad. Here, I need this torch for the rest of the playthrough. Is not related to the glitch. It just make it easier, though, because we do have to we have to activate the Hot to No Forge. The reason is because the horses have a really bad tendency of recognizing what is a jumpable ledge and what isn't. Their pathing is very finicky and very off, which is another reason why I don't like to use them. That being said, this part, I might have to cut to a successful attempt. Maybe not, but if you follow this general pathway, like I learned from the tutorial video, you should be just fine. You're going to want to pick up speed here, and you find this corridor, if you will, of trees. I'm going to try and control the horse. See, it tried to grab me just then, but thankfully the horse cooperated, and we made our way through. And then, of course, you get to the edge of the right path where you're supposed to go. Now, I've had the mist try to pick me up here, and I guess that was just collision error, or the game just somehow catching up because you're still technically in the lost part of the Lost Woods. Korok Village, technically, of course, Forest technically being down here, but that's totally fine. First try. It's probably going to take you a few tries, so if you have to safety save at that midpoint, do it. It's totally fine. The only real save point you need to save for is this one at Korok Forest. And, of course, the so beautiful and detailed, but so many pixels that the Switch doesn't like it. Now, this is very important. You want to get the horse as close to the Master Sword as possible without triggering the cutscene to look at it. What I like to do is I look to use these first two bushes here as a reference. I stop right here. On the right. You see these two bushes? Yeah, this is what I make as my point. Any closer, I would have triggered the cutscene and would have messed up the glitch. Okay, so, save here. This save point is very important because it's going to be our anchor point for doing the glitch. This is also why doing anything else productive in the way of finding shrines and getting Korok seeds won't matter, because we're actually going to pick up the playthrough proper from this point after getting the Master Sword via this glitch. Trust me, it'll make more sense as we go along. Now I'm going to teleport back to the central stable area that we found just there on the map. Reason being its location, and we're still going to use our horse because it's still our fastest method of getting across country. And make our way to Kakariko Village. We need to get to Kakariko Village to talk to Impa so we can activate the Hateno quest and go to Hateno to get the camera, which is what we need for the Master Sword glitch. We're also going to be using it for the second major glitch we're going to be using, but that's at a later point. So we'll go ahead and get our horse out. And then we're going to make our way to Kakariko Village following a very specific path. It's actually really easy to point out if you look in the horizon. But nonetheless, I will be using one of my methods to get across there, and I'll see you guys then, where we'll pick this up. Kakariko Village from this pathway. I'm used to going from along from Dueling Peaks until I utilize this method and this glitch in my playthrough. So yeah, usually you come in from over there. So what we're going to do is go ahead and stop. I would pick up the apples, but again, it's not going to be saved to our inventory, so just forget it. Go ahead and climb up so we can avoid talking to those guys or having that quick cutscene. You always talk to Paya here. Or rather, she always talks to you when she notices you. And once we go ahead and get through the cutscene with Impa, she'll give us the quest to go get the runes from Hateno Village. And we pick it up from there.
So, you're finally awake. It has been quite a long time, Link. I am much older now, but you remember me, don't you? Huh? Oh.
So just go ahead and match this dialogue. I usually spam B so that I could just choose the default response. Will have her explain everything out in separate cutscenes, except right now. Or she'll bring up the map and she'll point to the ways, so we already know where Kakariko and Hateno Village are. We are going to be coming back here to finish up after we get the memory quest proper after we're done getting the Master Sword. Because like I said, any progress from this point isn't actually going to hold. So we're technically going to do this part of the glitch pathway, or the glitch route, going to Kakariko and then to Hateno twice. So now we have the new mission to go to Hateno Village. And now we have to go from there to Hateno from Kakariko. And once again, I will speed up and meet you guys there. Actually, a bit of an interjection, some post-commentary notes coming in here while the music is playing. So I figured this would be much better to just talk about rather than put up another text, considering how long the video is already. But you'll notice that the clip isn't sped up, and unfortunately, with the way things were set up, I'm using the free trial on the Pinnacle Studio 21 right now to see if I honestly want to move ahead and buy it, and this is kind of a deal breaker. I would have to stop the capture at a point that I will want to speed up and start it up again to make that whole clip its own video, if that makes sense. I don't know if any of you have done any video editing, but I have tried for the past 4.5 hours to figure out how to properly speed up this function, which is really weird because when I had the Dazzle in the Pinnacle Studio 14, I could actually segment and isolate whole sections, clips if you will, of a video that I've totally recorded from beginning to end, and I would be able to modify the speed of that isolated clip. I cannot seem to do that with this program, so unfortunately this is going to have to be the case. It's going to be really tedious, but I'm going to give it a try in future videos where I do have to speed segments up. So I am sorry. I know the video is long enough anyway, but hopefully you found it very interesting and entertaining as it is. But I'm just going to go ahead and let the music play as we head all the way to, what should be Hateno at this point in the video. And so yeah, we're going to give it a try in the beginning. I'm going to make them whole segments on their own, and then hopefully we can do that for a bit of time save. Plus, I think it's rather awkward to just play the video at normal speed with some music over it, but hey, at least it is nice music after all. I sort of didn't want to cut it out, actually, because in case somebody is just sticking with this video, just to be more accurate, I don't want to just take that away and have somebody hope to try and fish out a tutorial video proper. Since that's the whole point of me utilizing this glitch as well, as to show it off and show that it can be learned, it can be done over again. So, we are going to do two things. We need to get the shrine over here, because this shrine, or specifically the apparatus inside, is extremely important to both this glitch, getting the Master Sword, and the other glitch I'm going to be using later. We're not going to go in just yet. This is where you want to get the very important amendment. We're still fine up until the point where we saved, but for the rest of this glitch to work, you are going to need a shield. And you can use a pot lid right here as a shield. Unfortunately, I was a bit too hasty and I skipped over this in my notes, and it's rather pivotal, which is why I'm amending it right now. You need some kind of shield for both the torch glitch I'm going to use and the Master Sword glitch that we're going to use as well. So don't worry, don't panic. A quick amendment that you can make is, this is why you get the shrines as teleport beacons. You can go ahead and teleport back to them. You don't have to finish them, and that's mostly what I'm going to use the rest of them for anyway. So just a real quick amendment there. So we head back here, and we need the shield because we're going to do a glitch called weapon smuggling. And thankfully, it's aptly named because the torch does count as a weapon. You obviously don't use it for that purpose. It's the same damage as a stick, I believe. Yeah, it's 2. But, yeah, even when it's on fire, it only does so much more. It's just not worth it. So, after amending that error, which can be easily solved by doing what I just did, we're going to go ahead and make our way to the furnace and then use what's called weapon smuggling. And for that, I'm going to want... No, not... Whoa, whoa, whoa. Easy game. I'm going to want the square bomb. It doesn't necessarily have to be the square bomb, but it's just more stable and it's just easier to do or deal with. So, yeah, that's why I choose that. The same was done in the tutorial, but the reason for this glitch is that if you carry the flame normally, you can't run with it, and it's a very slow slog. So in order to make this much easier on yourself, you use weapon smuggling. So take the bomb out and put it at your feet. You're going to want the torch equipped as a weapon and a shield. So what you're going to do is, in the animation of Link putting away the torch, we're going to act really quick. I'm going to bring up the shield, which is the shield menu, which is left directional, in the middle of him putting it away. So I would say visually, you want to go off this is now. And while I switch over, thankfully time stops, or the game stops while you're in this menu. You want to click A, or you want to spam A to pick it up. And if this works, there we go. We have now done weapon smuggling. Now just go ahead and throw it and detonate it so it doesn't get in your way. You do want to, of course, pick up the fire, just get near it. And as you'll notice that it's sort of displaced in Link's hand. What's cool about this glitch is that it makes this so much easier. You can whistle sprint, you can not dive into the water. Oh, I can't believe it. What can I say? I like practicing. Okay. Thankfully, even if the fire goes out, you don't have to redo weapon smuggling. You can still just go back and light it up again. What I was trying to do was, again, flip back to my setup on my controller so I can whistle sprint to make this easier. Unfortunately, I flicked the directional, the joystick in the left direction, and that made Link decide to dive into the water. I would have made it if he hadn't done his diving animation, which pushed him over the edge a little bit further than I would have liked. I would have caught the edge of the rocks and it would have been fine. But, hey, sometimes these little mishaps are what make these videos worth it. Okay, so just gonna make our way up here to ignite the furnace, because if you don't, you're not gonna be able to proceed to get the camera rune. So like I said, when I started this in my practice run, it was also raining, so I just had to sit there for every 5 minutes is 5 seconds in this game, or in real time. So, and each weather pattern, like you see there on the bottom right, is about 3 minutes long. So yeah, There are no joys to rain in this game. This opens up at a teleport point, but as I said, it's not going to really matter. That's not why we're doing it right now. Just to get out of the glitch, just go ahead and spam the sheath button, and you'll go back into normal holding it. So go here, talk to Pra, and just go through her dialogue. We just need the camera. We don't even need to do the rest of the quests that she requests in order to get the other... or to get access to the upgrading the runes. We just need the camera. Through all this dialogue. I'm not going to say that. So we fully upgrade the Sheikah Slate to have the camera, and this is where the Hatano Shrine is going to be very important. Inside that shrine is one of everybody's favorite features of the shrines is the motion control shrines. It's also pretty much the first one you'll come across. It's the maze one, where you have to direct the ball with the, you know, the motion of gravity and all that stuff. It's really, really annoying. So thankfully they added more of those in the DLC. Yay. What we're going to do next is not weapon storage, but it does involve the shield-like weapon storage. It's actually called apparatus storage. Or not weapon smuggling, it's going to be apparatus storage. And the reason for that is it's going to displace Link's location as far as the game is concerned. And that's where the really the miracle of this glitch comes in. This how it makes it doable. So once we're done here, she's going to want us to use it just so that the game makes sure that we know how to use the camera. And we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to go back to the shrine down here, and then we're going to enter it so we can get a hold of the apparatus. Now, they expect you to use the gyroscope on the Switch controller in order to use these apparatus. But what we're going to do is we're going to do a series of inputs that makes the apparatus, the moving of the camera from Link onto the apparatus so you can control it and see it more. We're going to displace it. It's going to make more sense right now. Okay, so now that we're in, you're going to want your shield equipped, and you're going to want the camera on your rune pad. So, in order to do... normally, if you do this, it just goes to the apparatus. You know, I can move it right now, motion controls, etc. But what I want to do is I want to store the location of the camera between the apparatus and Link. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to hold down your shield. It doesn't matter which way you're facing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to access my camera and crouch at the same time. So you're wondering how you do this. Well, you're going to have to use your right hand. What I like to do is I like to bring it over for the left, not the left bumper, because left bumper is holding up the shield. The left shoulder? Yeah, left shoulder. And what I do is I press it and crouch, which is R3 on the joystick at the same time. And you'll know you've done it right is if you get this angle on the camera. If I did it normally, the height would be different. The reason is you want to come up to this the apparatus control. You're going to press A. Now, you're going to want to do a few things really fast here. When I click A to delete, I'm going to quickly press the plus button to go into my menu. And the window is actually very forgiving, so I'm very certain I have the storage. Here's where all of this is going to come together. Now that I have the storage, the game is anticipating where Link's location is. Now I'm going to load up that save in front of the Master Sword in Korok Forest, all the way back there. So yeah, everything we did, this is what I mean it's going to go away. So, here's what has to happen. I'm going to load this in, and here's what I'm going to do. As soon as you can spam minus if you have to. I need to bring up the map so I can teleport away really quick. The game is still processing where Link is. But if I press this fast enough, I'm going to be able to teleport as far as I can. The Great Plateau is usually what they agree is fine enough. You go over to the... You want to teleport to the tower... back on the plateau, but if this works out properly, which I believe it has, I have done this like 3 or 4 times now. What's going to happen is you're not going to see the Tower of the Plateau. Instead, you're going to see something very interesting. What's going to happen is, if this is right, is we're going to still be in Korok Forest, and it's going to load weird. Yep, we did it right. It's going to find out where Link is. I'm going to be pressing B to get off of the horse. It's going to load in very slowly with lag because it's trying to find the Link's position. And I'm going to run up to the Master Sword and, what do I say? Pick it up. And that's how you get the Master Sword on 3 hearts. So, after doing that, all of that work was for the Master Sword. Now, I probably should have prefaced this, but if you were following me directly, then you only have these 3 weapon slots. Normally, when you pick up the Master Sword properly, it comes with its own weapon slot. That is not true for this glitch. So, hopefully, when you now go and attempt it, you've waited this whole time. And trust me, even though we had a few hiccups, I've edited it out to where it's totally fine and it's straight up attempt. It might take a few tries, but thankfully, it's at the very beginning as soon as you get done with the plateau. And you can try it out yourself until you get it down. So we do have the Master Sword now. It works completely normal. There's going to be some other fun stuff that I'd like to talk about. But this video was definitely run long enough. It honestly should have been a 2-parter. But I did want to do something interesting along with, introducing the video, which is why I want to get that glitch done. Something that's very important, I like to teleport away to the rest of the game. No, get this shrine here. Because if not, you have to get back to Korok Forest through that mist, and we only ever want to do that once. So, with that being said, I hope you guys had a good time. That was the first part of our playthrough, and I'm not anticipating this to be incredibly long, but again, like I said, as I'm getting back into this, I will pick up on some old tricks and some other methods of making this more fluid, if that be the case. So thank you guys very much for joining me. I hope you guys really enjoyed the glitch, and like I said, maybe you too can now attempt to get the Master Sword early on, because I'm going to be honest, since stamina is so useful, that's the only thing I really want to invest in anyway, and don't want to have to vitality gouge in order to get the Master Sword. It's just so ridiculous. So I'm so glad we were able to do that. You can go ahead and feel free to save now, because, we use the glitch as normal. So in part 2, we're going to go back and we're going to do everything the proper way, do everything we can along the way, since it's going to matter now for Kakariko and Hateno Village.